Let me ask you a question, and be honest with yourself. If you missed just one paycheck, how long could you survive before everything starts to fall apart? A week? 2 weeks? Or would your credit card quietly step in, again? Because if you're watching this right now, chances are you're not lazy, you're not irresponsible, and you're not bad with money. Yet somehow, every month feels like a race you're barely surviving. The paycheck comes in, and before you can even breathe, it's gone. Rent, groceries, gas, minimum payments. And whatever's left, if there is anything left, never seems to stay. So today, we're going to talk about why so many people are living paycheck to paycheck, why credit cards feel like a lifeline but slowly turn into a trap, and why this isn't just a you problem. Stay until the end, because the final reason is the one almost nobody talks about, and it might completely change how you see money. For millions of people, life now follows a painful rhythm. Payday arrives. There's a brief moment of relief. Maybe even excitement. You check your bank account and think, okay, I can breathe again. Then reality hits. Rent or mortgage pulls a massive chunk. Utilities follow. Insurance. Phone bill. Internet. Streaming subscriptions you forgot you even had. Groceries cost way more than they did a few years ago, but you swipe your card anyway because you have no choice. And then comes the part no one likes to admit. You use your credit card not for luxury, but for survival. Gas. Food. Medicine. Emergencies. By the time the next paycheck rolls around, your account is back near zero, and the cycle repeats. This isn't a budgeting issue. This is a systemic pressure problem. Credit cards didn't start as the villain. They started as help. A safety net. Just in case, a temporary bridge. But over time, they quietly became part of everyday life. Many people now rely on credit cards just to maintain a basic standard of living. According to widely reported consumer finance trends, credit card balances have reached record highs in recent years, while interest rates climb to levels many people have never experienced before. That means every swipe today costs more tomorrow. A $100 grocery run doesn't stay $100. With interest, it grows. And grows. And grows. You're not just paying for food, you're paying for time. Here's the part no one warns you about. Credit cards don't feel like spending money. There's no physical loss. No cash leaving your hand. No immediate pain. Your brain registers it differently. Psychologists have long pointed out that people spend more when using credit compared to cash. The pain is delayed, so the decision feels easier in the moment, even when the consequences are heavy later. And when money is already tight, that delay feels like relief. I'll deal with it next month. I'll figure it out later. I just need to get through this week. That mindset isn't weakness. It's survival mode. Let's talk about something no motivational speaker can fix with positive thinking. Life genuinely costs more now. Rent has surged in many cities. Groceries have climbed dramatically. Gas prices fluctuate wildly. Healthcare costs continue to rise. Meanwhile, wages haven't kept up at the same pace. This gap is where people fall behind. You can do everything right, work full-time, avoid luxury spending, try to save, and still feel like you're drowning. That's because the financial floor has been pulled out from under many households. This is why so many people feel stuck despite working harder than ever. Credit card statements are deceptive. They show you a minimum payment that looks manageable. $40, $60, $90. But what they don't highlight enough is how long it keeps you trapped. Paying only the minimum stretches debt over years, sometimes decades, while interest quietly drains your future income. You're not just paying for past expenses. You're paying with future paychecks you haven't even earned yet. And that's how people stay paycheck to paycheck, even when income increases. Stay with me. In a moment, I'm going to explain why making more money often doesn't fix this problem, and why many people feel even more stressed after a raise. But first, there's something even more dangerous than debt. Most people aren't one bad decision away from financial disaster. They're one unexpected event away. A car repair. A medical bill. A job cut. Reduced hours. Without savings, credit cards become the emergency fund. And once that happens, debt stops being optional. This is how people who were doing okay suddenly find themselves overwhelmed and ashamed, even though none of it was their fault. Here's a hard truth. When income goes up, expenses often follow. Better apartment. Higher insurance. Lifestyle creep disguised as finally living, but the system also adjusts. Higher taxes. Higher costs. Higher expectations. Without structural change, more money just means a bigger version of the same struggle. That's why so many people say, I make more than I ever have, and I still feel broke. If you've ever wondered why it feels like you're running uphill on a treadmill, stay with me. Because the next section explains the hidden emotional toll of living paycheck to paycheck, and why it's so exhausting. Money stress doesn't turn off when you clock out. It follows you home. It interrupts sleep. It strains relationships. It creates guilt, shame, and constant anxiety. You start avoiding bank apps, ignoring statements, dreading numbers. And the longer this goes on, the harder it feels to escape, not because you're incapable, but because you're emotionally drained. But here's the truth most people never hear: living paycheck to paycheck is not just about money. It's about systems, habits, psychology, and rules that were never designed with your survival in mind. In the next part, I'm going to show you why budget harder advice fails most people, how the system profits from your stress, and the first real shift that breaks the cycle. Don't go anywhere, because the next reason might be the most important one of all. If this video made you feel seen, heard, or understood, hit the like button. It helps this message reach others who need it. Drop a comment below. What's the hardest part about living paycheck to paycheck? Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And subscribe, because this channel is about real money truth, not empty advice. So far, we've talked about the paycheck cycle, credit cards becoming survival tools, rising costs, and the emotional weight of money stress. But now we need to go deeper. Because if you've ever thought, I know all this, but why does nothing change? This next part explains exactly why. And fair warning, this section might make you uncomfortable. Not because it's harsh, but because it's honest. One of the most common pieces of advice people hear is simple: just budget better. But here's the problem. You can't spreadsheet your way out of a system that's squeezing you from every direction. Budgets assume flexibility. They assume extra room. They assume income is enough to cover life and savings. For millions of people, that assumption is false. When rent alone eats up 40 to 60% of income, budgeting turns into deciding which bill gets paid late, not which category gets optimized. This is why budgeting advice often feels insulting. It ignores reality. Here's a truth that rarely gets said out loud. Entire industries profit when you're financially stressed. Banks make money on interest. Credit card companies make money on late fees. Lenders make money on desperation. Minimum payments keep you manageable, not free. You're not encouraged to escape debt, you're encouraged to maintain it. This doesn't mean you're a victim with no control. It means the game isn't neutral. And you were never taught the rules. Social media has distorted what normal looks like. Vacations. New cars. Shopping halls. Luxury lifestyles. But what you don't see? The debt behind the camera. The maxed out cards. The stress off screen. Many people you think are doing better are just borrowing confidence from the future. And comparison silently keeps you trapped. Because it pushes spending, not saving. In a minute, I'll explain why shame keeps people broke, and how it silently stops financial progress. This part might hit close to home. Money struggles carry shame. People don't talk about it. They hide it. They pretend. Shame leads to avoidance. Avoidance leads to ignorance. Ignorance leads to worse outcomes. You stop opening statements. You delay decisions. You hope things magically improve. And while you wait, interest compounds. Shame doesn't protect you, it paralyzes you. Have you noticed something? As soon as you think you're catching up, something happens. Car breaks down. Medical bill arrives. Hours get cut. It feels like bad luck, but it's actually math. When there's no buffer, every inconvenience becomes a crisis. That's not failure. That's fragility. And fragility is expensive. Credit was designed to smooth timing, not replace income. But when income doesn't match reality, credit becomes a crutch. The danger isn't using credit. The danger is needing it. Once credit becomes essential, freedom disappears. Because every future dollar already has a job, paying the past. If you're thinking, okay, but how do people actually break out? Stay with me. Because the next section explains the first real shift that changes everything. Breaking the cycle doesn't start with money. It starts with clarity. Not motivation. Not discipline. Not hustle. Clarity. Seeing the full picture, even when it's uncomfortable. Because clarity removes fear. And fear is what keeps people stuck. Avoidance feels safer than truth, but truth is the only exit. Most advice jumps straight to big goals. Save 6 months, pay off everything, invest aggressively. But when you're paycheck to paycheck, big goals feel impossible. That's why momentum matters more than magnitude. One small win restores control. Control restores confidence. Confidence creates consistency. This is how real change starts. In the next part, I'm going to show you why emergency funds are actually emotional armor, how to stop relying on credit without deprivation, the mindset shift that separates survival from stability, and most importantly, how to stop blaming yourself for a system that never set you up to win. Don't leave yet. Because the next part isn't just about money, it's about getting your life back. Let me say something that might surprise you. Most people don't stay paycheck to paycheck because they're bad with money. They stay stuck because they were never shown a realistic path out. Not one built for normal people. Not one built for real life. Not one that accounts for stress, mistakes, or survival. And that's what we're going to talk about now. You've probably heard this advice before. Just get a better job, start a side hustle, make more money. And while higher income can help, it's not the solution people think it is. Because without changing the structure underneath, more money often just flows into the same leaks. Higher rent. Higher spending expectations. Higher pressure. This is why many people feel even more stressed after earning more. The problem wasn't income alone. It was where the money was going, and why. The biggest difference between people who struggle and people who don't isn't intelligence or discipline. It's fragility. Fragility means no margin for error, no buffer for life, no room to breathe. When you're fragile, every surprise becomes a disaster. Strong finances aren't about being rich. They're about being resilient. And resilience is built slowly, intentionally. Most people think emergency funds are about money. They're not. They're about sleep. They're about peace. They're about options. An emergency fund doesn't just pay bills, it protects your mind. It stops panic decisions. It stops desperation spending. It stops credit cards from becoming life support. Even a small buffer changes how you move through the world. In a moment, I'm going to explain why paying off debt first can actually keep you stuck, and what to do instead. This is where most people get it wrong. Conventional advice says, pay off debt as fast as possible, but when you have no savings, that strategy backfires. Why? Because the next emergency sends you right back into debt. You make progress. Life happens. You swipe the card again. It feels like failure, but it's not. It's a strategy problem. Stability must come before speed. For most people, the real order looks like this: create breathing room, build a small buffer, reduce reliance on credit, then attack debt. Consistently skipping steps creates burnout. And burnout is why so many people quit. Willpower is unreliable. It disappears when you're tired, when you're stressed, when life hits hard. That's why systems matter more than motivation. Automatic decisions beat emotional decisions. The goal isn't to be strong. The goal is to make strength unnecessary. If you've ever felt like money controls your choices instead of the other way around, stay with me. Because the next section explains how to slowly take your power back. Success isn't flashy. Success is saying no without fear, handling emergencies calmly, not panicking before payday. It's quiet. It's boring. And it's powerful. The goal isn't to impress others. It's to protect yourself. Credit cards aren't evil, but they need boundaries. When used for convenience, they help. When used for survival, they harm. The shift happens when you stop using them for basics, you create alternatives, you lower their emotional importance. Freedom isn't cutting them up. Freedom is not needing them. In the final part, we're going to talk about how to mentally exit survival mode, why patience beats hustle, the long-term mindset that creates real freedom, and how to forgive yourself for the past, because you can't build a future while hating yourself for surviving. Don't go anywhere. The last part ties everything together. Before we finish, I want you to hear this clearly. If you're living paycheck to paycheck right now, it does not mean you failed. It means you survived in a system that quietly demands more than it gives. And survival is not weakness. It's proof of strength. Survival mode changes how you think. You focus on today instead of tomorrow. Relief instead of growth. Speed instead of strategy. And when you've lived this way for years, it becomes normal. The first step out isn't earning more or saving more. It's realizing you're allowed to slow down. Stability comes from patience, not panic. Hustle culture tells you, grind harder, sleep less, do more. But constant hustle keeps you exhausted, and exhaustion leads to bad financial decisions. Real progress comes from sustainability. A plan you can follow when life is messy. A system that works when motivation disappears. Slow money beats fast stress. This part matters more than numbers. You cannot build a healthy future while punishing yourself for the past. That credit card swipe? That loan? That mistake? You were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time. Forgiveness isn't denial. It's permission to move forward. Financial freedom isn't an event. It's a direction. It's choosing progress over perfection. Consistency over intensity. Calm over chaos. The people who win aren't the fastest. They're the ones who don't quit. Most people don't fail because they can't change. They fail because they stop believing change is possible. Hopelessness is more expensive than debt. And once you believe escape is possible, even slowly, everything shifts. Living paycheck to paycheck isn't a personal flaw. It's a pressure response. And once pressure is reduced, clarity appears. Control returns. Choices expand. Life opens up. You don't need to be perfect with money. You need to be patient. You need to be honest. You need to be consistent. Small steps, taken long enough, change everything. If this video helped you feel understood, even a little, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm this message matters. Leave a comment below. Right finger, what's the hardest part about living paycheck to paycheck? Share this video with someone who's quietly struggling. And subscribe to this channel, because here, we talk about money honestly, realistically, and without shame. You're not broken. You're learning. And this is just the beginning. Blue Heart.